Good morning, all of you. Today, I again come up with a new poem named I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. So, as usual, let's first talk about the poet. Maya Angelou is a powerful feminist writer of Afro-American ethnicity. She is a widely acclaimed author, poet, and civil rights activist who worked closely with Martin Luther Jr. and Malcolm X. Maya Angelou had an extremely traumatic childhood, and her poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, written in 1969, tells of her life up to the age of 17. It is this poem that brought her international acclaim and recognition. Now, let's begin with the poem. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends. The poet begins by referring to the flight of a free bird who springs free from the ground to fly in the direction of the air current and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. This means that it looks as if the bird immersed his wings in the orange rays of the sun covering the sky. It seems to be dipping his wings in the orange sun rays. The free bird flies as if the sky belonged to him. The bird is confident and enough to claim the sky. Now let's move on to the next stanza. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The next stanza expounds the conditions of the caged bird who is constantly watching down his cage. He can almost never see through the bars. It means that the caged bird is enslaved. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied. He can't move here and there. Under such circumstances, the only option is that to open his throat to sing. Hope you all are understanding. Now let's move on to another stanza. The caged bird sings with fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. For the caged bird, signs of freedom. This means that the caged bird quavers while singing of the things unknown. He realizes his condition but still longs for freedom. He has hope for his freedom. The caged bird longs for freedom. When the caged bird cries for its freedom, it is heard at a faraway place. Now, the fourth stanza. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn, bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. This means that this stanza goes back to the unrestricted movement of the free bird. The free bird thinks of another breeze. The poet also mentions the fat worms that are waiting on a lawn at sunrise to be consumed by him. It appears as if the bird had named the sky his own, since there are no other birds to contest with him. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The fifth stanza depicts the bird in its cage that has now become the grave of the bird's dreams, and his cry for freedom is like that of a nightmare. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. Once again, the caged bird sings for its freedom, as his wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he can't move here and there. For him, the only option is to open his throat to sing for its freedom, to cry for its freedom. Now, last stanza. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird signs of freedom, sings for freedom. The final stanza is a repetition of third stanza, which emphasizes the distressing condition of the caged bird. Guys, here the poet makes differences between the freedom and restriction. He describes the bird in two ways. One is the free bird, and on the other hand there is caged bird. Now let's begin with the figures of speech, and let's talk about its discussion and also the rhyming scheme. First, there is rhyme. There is no definition rhyming scheme that is followed in the poem, but there are few lines that rhyme internally. For example, with a fearful thrill of things unknown but hanged for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill for the caged bird. Second, but a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. So, here, trill, still, heard, bird, dreams, screams, all are rhyming words. Now, come to alliteration. Alliteration, what is alliteration? Alliteration, it is the close repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words, as in can seldom see through. So, seldom and see are beside each other and S is repeating two times. So, here it is alliteration. Like for example, second point, the free bird thinks of another breeze. So, bird and breeze. B is repeating two times. So, alliteration is also present here. Third, the fat worms waiting on down bright lawn. Here, worms and waiting. W and W. Here are two W. That is alliteration. Fourth point, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. Here, shadow shouts. Here, S is SH and SH are repeating two times. That is, it is also an alliteration. Now, move on to next figure of speech, that is repetition. It is used to put emphasis on a particular idea. For example, the whole sixth stanza is a repetition of the third stanza, as in your poem, sixth stanza and third stanza are repeated, which puts stress on the caged bird's song for freedom. Why it is repeated? As the poet wants to say, he puts stress on the caged bird's song for freedom. That why the caged bird sings for freedom? Because his feet were tied and his wings were clipped. So he has the only one option to sing from his throat. Also, the idea of birds' wings being clipped and feet being tied is repeated to heighten the effect of birds' imprisonment. Now, move on to next hyperbole. That is, it is identified as an extravagant exaggeration not to be taken literally but used figuratively to create emphasis. For example, and dares to claim the sky, and he names the sky his own. The free bird dares to claim the sky is a hyperbolic expression that suggests that the free bird has the courage to claim the sky. Now, here comes personification. What is personification? A figure of speech in which abstract ideas are invested with personality, and both inanimate and abstract ideas are endowed with the attributes of living beings. For example, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees. Second, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. Third, a free bird leaps on the back of the wind. Now, here comes metaphor. The caged bird is a metaphor for the poet Maya Angelou herself and all those African Americans who faced discrimination, prejudices, and slavish treatment during the apartheid. Here, Maya Angelou has also put the stress on the caged bird, as African and Americans are also facing, or maybe they have faced, discrimination, prejudices, restrictions. That's why she puts the stress on the caged bird. Like, caged bird also cry for its freedom. Same, on the other hand, Americans and Africans, or maybe anyone who face discrimination, also cry for its freedom. Guys, here I put pause on my poem and hope you all like my video. At the end, I just only want to say, please subscribe my channel, like, share and comment.